So I'm here at Andy Grant from Sports Coach UK. I'm here with Justin Price, Mark Oliver and Paul Roberts from Street Games. And we're just here, I've been here, very lucky to have been part of their Level 2 MultiSkills and Principles of Coaching qualification that's been delivered as well. And we're just going to have a bit of a chat with the lads about how they think everything's gone so far. So just to throw out an open question too, just can you explain maybe some of what you think of the skills required of a doorstep sport coach and how your coach education development programme is helping try to achieve that?
Do you want to start, Mark?
Yeah, I think the skills of a doorstep coach are about developing the person as well as the coach. I think it's not just about developing a coach. I think it's about recognising that is just part of their role and part of Street Games' purpose, but actually it's about changing lives and changing communities through sport. So therefore that's got to be reflected in our coach education, and so we pay a lot of attention to that kind of stuff, the more holistic development in the coach education and in the training we provide as well.
Yeah, when we talk, I think when we talk a lot to the young coaches or the young volunteers which are training to become coaches, and they identify the qualities and skills of the coach or the coach they want to be, really, they spend a lot of time talking about what formal coach education might be called rapport building, but they say, well, I need to be real and authentic for young people in my area, they need to trust me, I need to do the things that I'll say I'll do, I need to make sure I don't let people down. So I kind of think they're important skills and qualities within the coach. I mean, Paul, you've got some experience here in Wales of developing some projects, haven't you?
Yeah, I think a lot of the coaches that we see, particularly that come through a doorstep sport environment, they start first and foremost, in most cases, as role models and key figures within the community. Some actually come with very little or zero coaching experience and background, but actually the fact that they've got good interpersonal skills, they're the Pied Pipers of the local community. They can get young people active that perhaps other organisations can't, and they've got the skills and characteristics and the local clout to pull young people together, and that is hard to get from any other sort of form of coaching recruitment in a community and doorstep sport environment. But through organically recruiting local members, it allows us to work with somebody once they're well known in the community, got bums on seats basically, and then you can develop them as coaches from there. But I think that's what generally the main characteristics are, really, when you see young people and adult volunteers coming through the communities.
I think you're right. I think as long as the young people in the community can relate to the coach, that's more than half the battle of them being effective in their community.
Yeah.
And then it's on top of that you start building some coaching specific skills, some skills around group management perhaps, some skills about understanding the motivations of players, and then designing practices which help meet those motivations and goals, but most importantly are fun.
Just on that, the motivations, is there a difference between what you say motivations maybe of a performance-related coach compared to a coach in the doorstep sports? Are they expected to understand the differences and motivations of people that are coming along to their sessions?
Yeah, I think in a community or doorstep sport setting, that the motivation of the coach should and generally is to try and find a way to fit the sport to the young people, whereas I think in more performance settings, certainly where I've been involved in as a coach before, it's more about fitting young people to the sport, really. And so I definitely think in a community setting, perhaps delivering a session in a car park or a really cramped community hall with kind of not necessarily all of the most recent equipment that you might like, the coach has to keep referring to that motivation and drive to support and help the young people, to keep them going and to keep them, thinking of innovative ways to encourage young people to keep coming back. And I think that's a real driver for community and doorstep coaches. How do we build sporting habits for life? How do we find ways to deliver sport that encourage young people to keep coming back. And I think that's a big thing, whereas perhaps in a performance environment, people come back because they've decided they've got a goal they're working towards.
Very good. Just as well, when you were designing the learning programme and you looked at the whole learning experience of the programme you put together, what were some of the key considerations that you looked into? What did you really want to make sure that the benefits for the learner coming to this programme?
I think particularly for the most recent course that we've been running is making sure that we can provide for all the learners, because we've had quite a diverse mix of people on this most recent course, some very experienced and professional people, and some complete novices in terms of accessing coach education. We've had some learners that need support from the point that they struggle with reading and writing skills, and as soon as you mentioned, in terms of an assessment, they're not used to being in that environment. So we've had to cater for all learning needs. So we've had to do things like be creative in terms of capturing evidence on flip chart, group discussions, video clips, and utilise that in the best possible way that we can to accommodate all the learners' needs, because they know it, and they all collectively, regardless of how experienced they are, being able to demonstrate that. It's just down to us in terms of being able to accommodate them all. That's what we've had to be creative with, and we probably will be for all of our courses through a Doorstep sport environment. Get quite a diverse mix of people.
Excellent. Just one for you, Mark, as well. Just also, the multi-skills delivery is a key part of your education development programme for the coaches. How important do you think it is multi-skills for the Doorstep sport coach?
I think it's really important. I think especially with street games going forward into developing Doorstep sport clubs, where we're going to be asking them to compete in 2 or 3 or more different sports. I think it's really important that young people are given a platform to try their hand at different sports and to see where their skills lie, or what they're passionate about, or where they're talented, and where they have an opportunity to then go and develop themselves, whether it be with a bat in the hand or a ball at the feet. I think it's given them that opportunity to try a variety of stuff. And I think, turning up to a multi-use games area in an inner city area, I think a great session might involve either 1 or 2 or 3 different sports. So it might involve a kick around with a football and then a little game of rounders, and then a game of head tennis or something like that. Or it might involve games where actually it's a mix, and you don't prescribe which sport to use or which equipment to use, but it's kind of transferable across a number of different sports and types of sports. So I think it's absolutely key to our future. And I think if we're talking about providing young people with the fundamentals that will allow them to be, competent in a number of different sports, then it's really key as well at developing those skills in these youngsters. Okay,
and I think that the final one for me, actually, I'll direct to Justin, but anyone can jump in, is following on from Mark there. I mean, I know that you are aware of the long-term athlete development, the LTD model. How do you see that works and fits for what you're trying to do at street games? Does it fit?
It's a really good question, actually, Andy. I've been looking at the application of long-term athlete development in disadvantaged and challenging communities for probably, 6, 7, 8 years, something like that. And I think the model is often, it's kind of a perfect scenario. So if a family had a child or a young person, and they wanted to provide opportunities for them to fulfil their own sort of sporting potential, I think it would be great if they could start as a child, with an active start, lots of crawling and controlling objects and all of those things, and then develop onto fundamentals of movement, some movement skills, and then to a range of sports and gradually tapering off. But the reality of that model is that it's heavily reliant on parents, carers, or support networks of young people having quite a lot of knowledge, and also barriers not being in place for people to access all those opportunities. So what Street Games have said is, when we see the long-term athlete development model, we really recognise that fundamentals of movement and movement skills and fundamental sport skills do underpin all the sports that our young people are interested in playing, but we also recognise that for a range of circumstances, many of the young people that we see in a doorstep sport or community setting don't move as efficiently or effectively as they might, and haven't had exposure to a range of sports. And so recognising those two factors, their minds are sometimes a bit limited as to what sports they think they might be good at or what sports they would give a go. So what we're trying to do by bringing multi-skill development and coaching into the repertoire of our coaches is to backfill some of those gaps really, and actually say, community leader, community Pied Piper, respected role model, can you start teaching creative and innovative ways for the young people that you care about in your community to move better, to have solid foundations so that they can fulfill the sporting potential that they all hold. And that's kind of where we see street games and LTAD fitting together in a really practical sense.
Okay. Paul, Mark and Justin, thanks very much for your time, and good luck with your continuing development of these doorstep sport coaches.
Thanks very
much. Thank you very much.
Cheers.